Please welcome to the stage Eduardo Williams.
Hello.
Hi, I haven't seen you yet. Are we allowed to hug?
Sorry.
I don't know. Hi. Thanks for coming.
Thanks to you for coming also.
I always show up for you.
Good.
Thank
Until
you.
now, let's see in the
Until
future.
now. Yeah, okay. This is a test. I don't know if you remember, so the first time I saw this, I was blown away. And I was trying to put into words exactly what I saw and trying to understand exactly what I saw. And every time I see one of your works, whether it's a film, an installation, a short, I feel like you're rethinking the language of cinema to some degree. And in this one specifically, I said, what is this in a way? And your response was spiral cinema, which I thought was so smart and so great. And then after The Human Surge, the original, you made a short with Mariano Blatt called Parsi, which uses a 360-degree camera. And so that has that spiral movement. Can you talk about the leap from that to this, and if using that technology inspired you to continue to make those sorts of images?
Yeah. Yes, for Parsi, the other short film, I chose the 360 camera, mainly because I wanted to give the camera to the actors. And with the 360 camera, they don't need to be thinking about framing. So I thought that was a good start. And then by using it, I discovered other things, many other things, but mainly the thing I discovered that made me choose it for this film was that I could frame after the shooting, and mainly also that I could frame using my body and my head. So what I did was I saw the footage with a virtual reality headset and recorded my movement. So I discovered this. For me, this was a very different way of thinking about the frame of a film, right? Mainly because usually we think about the framing while we are doing the film or before. Or afterwards we can change it a little bit, but it's very different to think about it with your hands and with your body and while there is a shooting around you, than to think about it afterwards in another state of mind. And also to be able to frame a film by moving your head like this and your body and like this. So I thought that was an interesting thing that could be done in many different ways. And I thought I wanted to try to do it for a longer film and a more narrative film, and to see what happened with this. And then using it here, I discovered other things, but mainly I liked that also I could edit the 2 hours of the film, and then all the movement is continuous. I mean, how I frame the end of the film is because I've been watching the film as the spectators do, and so I framed the 2 hours at once, in one try. I don't know if this is very clear. Yeah. I don't know if I answered the question or not.
I will open it up to the audience, but I want to keep going for a second. The idea of whenever you shoot something, obviously you're making choices and compositional choices, and there are ethical issues when you frame things and look at things. But when you're reconsidering images through your body and your movement, how does that change things?
What a question. I also ask myself the same thing. And I'm still thinking about it. I don't know, how does it change things? In many ways. In most maybe simple way, which is the easiest to tell you here and now, is like, I discovered you want to see other things, right? When you're there, it's not the same as when I watch in the computer or when I'm there in the real situation. What you want to see is different, and the type of course, the type of movement you do is different. Also, what you can see is different. I mean, for example, sometimes then I discovered I wanted to, sometimes we had one scene happening in one specific point of the image, and then while I was editing, I discovered maybe I wanted to look the other way. So I discovered what people were doing. I don't know what the actors were doing when they're preparing to come in the scene, or what the people from the technical team were doing when they were just bored looking at their phones, also in other scenes we could see in other ways like how the, let's say, documentary thing was happening around us, where people were just doing their things, and in the middle we had the fictional, also the fictional thing happening. And by looking at it, I could like include coming and going from one and the other in different ways, which I thought was interesting. Then what else? I don't know. That's enough, maybe.
There's a lot going on with sound too and editing, especially watching the jungle scenes. Wildlife is very loud. It's very intense, and it's quite musical. But in terms of like watching, I almost felt like watching it for a second time and on the screen that the screen was moving. You had the sensation of like there was the wind and the flapping and the sounds. Can you talk about the sound design?
Yes, I suppose I can. No, I'm lucky you mentioned the jungle, because that's like the moment where I was more impressed by the sound. I mean, also it was the moment I was more impressed by everything that was happening around me. But mainly the sound was like the way I felt all of these other animals, right, that were there that I couldn't see, but they were present all the time. And each time I recorded sound, it was like impossible to stop, because there's so many like layers of sound happening all the time, and it's like this music that never ends, and it's very, very interesting all the time. And then for the film, I tried to play with that in a musical way, and also to have this presence that sometimes like goes over the voices of the people. But then I think it's very difficult for me to speak about sound in general. I don't have like but for many things I don't have a theory or an idea before I do it. I have the ideas after I do it. I do things and then I think while I'm doing, and then I think more when I finished. But for sound, it's very difficult to explain what I do, really. I'm sorry.
It's great what you do. Are there questions for Teddy? Eduardo? Yep.
My dreams. That is just things I dream a lot. No, I have it's a very common dream probably, and I have these dreams where flying is so easy, and I wonder why I don't do it when I'm awake. And then for the film, this is not an inspiration, but to make the answer a bit longer and not so short. I chose to put this. I was thinking also when I was sitting there, like why I put this here. When I see a film, I'm always very critical with myself. I try not to be, but no, I was like trying to put this new element that is a little bit unexpected in the film. In my previous film, I also tried to do that in the end, to receive this thing that, because as long as you watch the film, I think you get used to the codes of the film and the things that happen, and to receive something new in the end, I think for me, at least it feels like rewarding or nice. And what I was going to say, no, and then, well, it doesn't matter. That's enough.
Sure you don't want to finish your thought?
I can, but okay, I will. No, I was going to say that it was quite hard to do. We shot the flying people in Brazil. First I wanted to do it in the mountain, but the mountain is like more than 3,000 kilometers high, and we had to walk like for 2-3 days and camp, and it was very complicated to do it. And I was thinking, like, in the end, I'm doing this very long. In the end, because of different circumstances, I had to do it myself. And so, of course, you see this, it is a very like rudimentary, is this a word in English? Yeah. Rudimentary special effect. And I really like, in the end, how this works with all the digital image of the film, and how the film also shows this, like, not mix, but this like the opposite of separation.
Suturing?
Yeah, I mean how people and the digital image are like so like not separate, and I think this is one. It brings something new, and it also adds up to this like digital human thing happening.
Question there?
How did you go about casting the film, like the characters in the film?
I don't, in each place, I mean, I always try many different things to try to meet people, and in each place, some techniques, let's say, work more than others. So sometimes I just ask friends if they went there before, or friends of friends, or things like that. Then I also go to the streets and stick papers on the walls, on the parks and the bus stops. I give papers to the people saying we are doing a film and we want to meet people. And then we do like WhatsApp videos. I mean, WhatsApp messages for people to send videos. And then when I meet people, I think it's very intuitive. I mean, I'm not looking for anything very specific. So I try to feel who feels well with me, who I feel well with, who I feel we could share more time. And then I try to share more time with them. And then or sometimes this is one thing they say that sticks in my mind. So then I realize I'm thinking about this person again and again. So I call them back. Yeah, I think it's that. And then there's a practical side of who is more available or who comes more. I think there's all of these things that sound very silly, but it's also something that happens a lot in the film while we are doing it. To feel who is more available, who has more energy, who is more happy to be there, who is less. So, I think you can imagine, things are not like written in a very strict way, so I can adapt things. So then I see people who have more memory, I give them the dialogue lines I feel are more important for me. People that are more nervous, maybe I leave them more free. But this is not about casting; it's more like how I work with them in the scenes. So,
That's also great to know. Question over here?
hello, thank you.
I'm trying to envision the setup just of the rig itself and kind of how it was all filmed, literally, because I'm thinking back to that wonderful long take sequence that starts up from so high and then just kind of slowly drifts. So I'm just wondering if you could explain like exactly
Which sequence? Sorry.
when we're coming from so far high and then we're kind of coming down when we're going up above the clouds on the mountain.
Okay. Yeah.
Towards the end, and that's just one example of kind of I'm just trying to envision, the setup of how it's actually being filmed. And
The camera.
yeah, that, and also I'm just, I laughed when people are just staring at the camera as they're going through the streets. Just moments like those I think are just so wonderful and illuminating, and so I'm just wondering about the actual setup itself.
Thank you. Yeah, we constructed like a backpack to take the camera over our heads. I didn't use it very much, but sometimes I did. And then after each shooting, we like upgraded the backpack because it always had something that could be better. And then what else? We constructed also a rain protection for the camera because I wanted to shoot under the rain. We did, not so much as I wanted, but we did. So the camera is like a ball, and we constructed this plastic thing that protected it from the rain. But yeah, mainly it's a backpack that where we took the camera over our heads. And then we also constructed like a cage for the moment where they throw it, so the camera hopefully wouldn't break. But yeah, it's a backpack, and then we just changed like the way it went up because I don't know, different problems we had. But yeah, very simple, I think.
It looks like we only have time for one more question in the back. How much of the dialogue was scripted versus improvisation or free speaking?
I don't know exactly how much, but I know there is a bit of everything. I mean, some scenes are totally scripted, and what you heard is what I wrote, quite exactly. Other scenes are totally improvised in Spanish and in the other languages. So sometimes I understood when it was in Spanish, when it was in Mandarin or Tamil, I didn't, and I discovered afterwards, or I asked them more or less what they spoke about. And then I think most of the scenes are a mix of both. Sometimes it was like, say whatever you want, but when you pass by this plant, you say this. That doesn't have anything to do. So sometimes I try to create or try to help to creating these moments of like saying whatever they want, and suddenly there's something totally foreign that comes, and see how they would manage that. And I really like to see how they change, like how they speak when they are saying whatever they want, and how they speak when they are like remembering things, and all those things that at the beginning I thought should be hidden, like for my previous film, I think I tried not to show so much when they were like saying fictional dialogues and when they were saying what they want. And here, especially when they speak in Spanish, and because I'm a Spanish speaker, I realized this, and I think that's interesting. But then, back to your question, no, then there's like, or sometimes it's not, I mean, let's talk about this that we spoke yesterday, or things like that. So I ask them more or less what to speak about, but not exactly what to say. But yeah, so I think there's many different ways of like going between like inventing and also when they improvise, I really like that they just invent anything, it's not just improvising about reality or their real life. But yeah, that's it, I think.
I think we're almost out of time, but there is so much to talk about in this film. I feel like it's both aesthetically so rich, thematically so rich, existentially, philosophically, and it poses so many questions that are also contemporary and things that we can answer or can't answer, whether it's the climate, I think, wealth discrepancy, all of these things that come up. And I know that obviously you travel a lot, semi-nomadic. You do camp, you're a good camper. So you don't demand a lot from the environment. But in making these films, you do travel with people, and that's also part of the way in which you work.
Yeah.
And here we have this, seamless interaction between languages and gender fluidity and boundaries and cities and the jungle. But I know that to make this film, it was really difficult in terms of boundaries and passports and administration. Can we just end on something about sort of the confluence of both of those things happening?
Yeah, I mean, when you were speaking, I was thinking, yes, for me, something very important for this film was to be able to travel with at least some of the actors of one country to the other, in difference to my previous film. So that was for me one of the main ideas or the things I defended the most, because usually when I start a film, I have many ideas, and then while I'm doing it, it is like a test or a challenge to see which ideas survive. And for me, of course, it's also always doubting how much should I push for this idea, or how much, because it's always, many things are difficult, and sometimes I have to learn to let ideas go, because if not, I can't do the film. But sometimes, for example, as I was saying, traveling with more people was very complicated for us because of the structure of production we had. It was very expensive. Usually I can shoot, not only because plane tickets and food and hotels and everything, but also usually can shoot with me and two more people in the technical team. But if I'm receiving people that maybe are not used to travel or also are not used to working in cinema, I cannot just receive them myself, as busy I am, so we need more people. So that was one part of the complication, and the other one was, I mean, I already knew this, and this was a reason for doing this, that, of course, I'm used to travel, and maybe we are used to travel, but we know not everyone is used to travel, and the system in which we live is like making it very clear that some people should not travel, and this I knew, but by practicing it, I realized more and more how difficult it was. For the Sri Lankan actors, it was very difficult to get their visas to go to Peru, and once we got them, they were like stopped in a connecting airport, and just people told them they don't believe their papers are true, right? And they were like, first time they come out of their countries, and they were like stopped in an airport for more than 1 day, and we were fighting to try to make them come. Finally, in a very crazy way, we got the ambassador of Argentina and Brazil to send a letter to Qatar, where they were stuck. I don't know, many things like this. And in the end, I mean, in the middle, many of these things happened. And in the end, we premiered in Locarno, a film, and Switzerland denied the visa for one actor from Sri Lanka that we could make come. It was very difficult for us to have money for the tickets and everything, and we had everything, and Switzerland, even if they were coming to like for 3 days to an event that is sponsored by the state, you know, you would think at least they would let these people come, but they don't. I mean, they are happy to show them in the screens, but they are afraid of them in reality. So I think that is also an important part of the film, and the world we live in, and of the festivals we work in. And yeah, I don't know if your question was more.
Oh, that was a great way to end. You really conceptualized it. Thank you so much for this film, for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.